Okay, we're live right now. Hello, folks. We're going to take a few minutes to share so the Facebook people know that we're here, and then we're going to join you. And of course, I'm here tonight with Jeffrey Epstein, and I will do more about an introduction, of Jeffrey in just
Jeff.
a few minutes. Okay. So, let me start the Facebook sharing. Oh, I got to get the Facebook page to the Facebook sharing. Problem. Small problem. So I hope everyone is well tonight. Okay, and happy. I know we all can't be completely happy because we have rotten politics going on, as we usually have, but such is life. At least such is our life at this juncture of the development of the United States. Dolores Pierce says, good to see Jeff. And hello,
Dolores.
And hello, everyone, because Dolores is on both Facebook and on YouTube as well. And we have Amber here, Amber H.K. Grigo.
Amber.
I'm still at work, but we'll tune in later, shared. And she says, love to all. And love to you too, Amber. And let's see, I got to share to this place. And then I got to share to my pages. Before we came on air, we were watching actually a performance of Beethoven's Sixth. I'm afraid it's still in my mind at this point.
Actually, come here.
Da 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 da. Bonnie says, Joey. So you don't want me to entertain people with my singing, huh?
Not that song.
Not that song. Okay. All right. Now we got a few groups to go. I find myself doing it again. Yeah, Rebecca Parsons was very impressive, I thought, when I interviewed her.
I need to listen to it.
Yeah, she impressed me as a real fighter.
It's good. So we're scheduling with her right now.
Yeah, somebody just spoiling for a fight. I think we need people like that.
Well, we're going to get a fight whether we like it or not at some point soon.
I think we got a fight right now going on. It's been going on for a long time.
I think it's going to be falling in our lap a lot more obviously, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I think so too, because as time passes, things are more and more of an emergency, and nobody's moving. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that and go to our full view now. Okay, do you like this view better or you like that view better?
Let's do this one.
Okay, this one. Okay, you got it. Folks, my guest for tonight is Jeffrey Epstein,
My mother calls me Jeffrey.
who was in the house, and we always call him Jeff because his mother calls him Jeffrey. We've been calling him Jeff for a long time. Bonnie's laughing. Oh, how corny, you guys. And anyway, we have a number of very nice people here. But first, I want to say that Jeff has a wonderful podcast at Activist MMT. He's been podcasting for a long time now. He's extremely polished at it.
You're 5 of my episodes, 5 of or 10 or whatever it is of my episodes.
And he also has a website and a lot of background, okay, on what he does. And he's a great resource, okay, for MMT because he cultivates all of those great links from all kinds of sources. And he has taken his teaching career into the MMT world. And it's obvious that he is a wonderful teacher. And recently, he became interested in the platinum coin.
Yep.
And as part of his interest in the platinum coin, and what he'd been learning about the platinum coin, Jeff recently wrote a piece called I don't know whether to call it the title that you put on the graphic. I guess it's the reality of the debt ceiling and hashtag mint the coin.
Yeah.
And then the title of, I should be showing this. Let me share this to people right at this point, just for us to get started here. I think a good place to start is the recent blog post by Jeff on his site. And you can see that it's activist mmt.org
It's not on screen, Joe.
/debt-ceiling and /. That's where you might find this. And I've left the link in the description as well. And on the graphic, it says fears of U.S. government shutdown as debt ceiling game of chicken begins.
It's not on screen, Joe, if you think it is.
And I thought we might start by actually going through the post. Would you like to take us through that, Jeff?
No, actually, I would love to hear your interpretation, but it's not on screen.
Have I started sharing it yet?
No.
No, let me share it so that people can see it.
Consider just briefly showing the image.
Is it up there yet?
Yes, it is now.
It is there. Okay. Okay, so Jeff, would you like to read it or summarize it for us?
I'd actually prefer to. I would love to hear your take on it. I mean, I can certainly do that. But
hello, Jeff. Are you there?
Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Can the audience hear me?
Jeff. Hello, Jeff.
Oh, geez. Hold on.
Can't hear me anymore.
I can hear you. I hear you. Hold on. Test. My audio is fine. Can the audience hear me?
Let me take the share away and see if it creates anything different. Can you hear me now?
I hear you. Yes.
I can't hear you now. Well,
yeah, Jonathan Wilson in the comments says that he can hear both of us.
Still can't hear you, Jeff.
Comments. The comments.
Okay, try going out and coming in again. That's probably the easiest thing. Okay, so Jeff should be in just a second. That's an easy thing. A very easy way to fix it, usually. And Kay says hi, and Lana says hi there, and Jeff said hi. Here's Jeff again. Adding to the stream.
Yes.
Jeff?
Can you hear me, Joe?
Can't hear you yet.
Can some please listen?
It's got to be at your end
Unmute
because according to my
replug in his headphones, maybe.
You have not been muted. So it must have to do with your own mic.
It's yours.
So look in the StreamYard interface where it says cam and mic. It should be at the bottom of your interface. And if you click on the cam and mic, it will bring up
Test 1, 2, 3. Yes.
something that should show you if your mic's all right. Do
you see that comment?
Jeff wrote something in the private chat. My mic is fine according to StreamYard and everyone can hear me.
Correct.
Everyone but me. Now, why would I not be able to hear you? Let me check my mic. Oh, that seems all right. Let me check my audio. Okay, let me close this now and see if there's a difference. Still can't hear you.
Test 1, 2, 3.
I can tell it's still silent. Let me look at my sound settings and see if something's not playing. Jeff? Speakers?
Test 1, 2, 3.
That is really, really puzzling.
Well, I might as well share while Joe.
Okay, try once more to go out and come back in and see if we get to it that way. Man, I don't really understand what the hell's going on here. No, I did not accidentally mute my speakers. My speakers are fine. Jeff's here again.
Can you hear me? Can
Jeff?
you hear me?
Still not. Okay, let me fool around with my speakers some more. They look okay to me.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Say something now.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Nope. Say something now.
Test 1, 2, 3.
They both seem to be good. They both seem to be in sync.
Audience, I'm presuming you can still hear me. I
Also, I didn't
can.
touch anything before. I mean, at one point we were talking well, and then I shared your piece. There's no indication I have any problem with my speakers. What I'm going to do is
Well, I might as well just say if I can get this in without interrupting Joe. Yeah, okay, so Lana still hears both of us.
just giving me a switch.
I don't know how often he has technical problems.
Okay.
But we've experienced stuff like this before, just inexplicable audio problems.
Okay, how do you feel about my reading your blog to start off? And we hope, in the meantime, that we somehow discover what is wrong. Okay, the title is The Reality of Debt Ceiling and hashtag Mint of the Coin. The President of the United States has the legal authority to end the debt ceiling crisis entirely and at any time by merely choosing to do it. Instead, like President Obama before him, he has chosen to not take advantage of this authority and instead risk a government shutdown or voluntary default. This reality reveals the debt ceiling to be not a tool to constrain a profligate government, but rather for the rich, via both corporate parties, to deceive those in the middle into thinking that depriving the poor is, quote, unfortunate but necessary, unquote. This is to hide what they really mean, which is, quote, of course we can provide for the poor, we just don't want to, unquote. I think that's good sense from the first paragraph on. This post provides a brief history and summary of the debt ceiling and of the unique legal solution whereby the president, via the Treasury and Mint, can order the issuance of a platinum coin of any value he pleases. Okay, then there's an insert which says these resources were created by activists #MMT, the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, web. Please consider becoming a monthly patron. This post was last updated October 1st of 2021, just a few days ago, in other words. And a disclaimer from Jeff. I have studied MMT since February 2018. I'm not an economist or academic. I don't speak for the MMT project. The information in this post is my best understanding, but I don't assert it to be perfectly accurate. In order to ensure accuracy, you should rely on the expert sources linked throughout. If you have feedback to improve this post, please get in touch. Then he goes on, a very brief history of the debt ceiling. In the early 1900s, Congress had to authorize the spending of hundreds of government agencies on an individual basis. To make the process less unwieldy, this authority was dedicated to the Treasury. What was a good idea at the time has in the past century been twisted to become a needless and arbitrary financial constraint on a government that has no and can never have purely financial constraints. That is, not purely financial, that's right, but it can have political constraints of its own making. But to get back to Jeff's piece, both corporate parties point to the debt ceiling as an excuse to grandstand and play chicken every few years, with all the real-world consequences suffered by millions of those at the bottom, and none of them by those doing the grandstanding. Well, maybe sometimes they do have a few consequences. If you remember, Trump got into debt ceiling crises. I don't know if that really helped him politically at all. I suspect that it did not. I think it might have hurt him a bit, but I won't swear to that. The debt ceiling from different perspectives. From a financial point of view, the debt ceiling, here's the Wikipedia entry, is a needless, completely unnecessary, and self-imposed constraint. Breaching the debt ceiling cannot naturally or inherently cause economic problems such as default or inflation. It is, however, Congress's way of proclaiming that they would rather uphold this pure fiction than to prevent real-world consequences for millions of Americans. Reneging on obligations already appropriated by Congress. Now, this is a point so many overlook. It's very important. The point is, the obligations have already been incurred by appropriations that Congress makes. The spending has already been ordered by the Congress. Obligations based on that spending have been incurred. So, bringing the debt ceiling to a crisis like this reneges on obligations already appropriated by Congress. Going on, or shutting down the government completely, which would eliminate income for millions of government employees and critical services for millions more. From a legal point of view, breaching the debt ceiling is illegal because it's the law. It's a stupid and meaningless law, but a law nonetheless. There's an asterisk there because Well, I'll get to the asterisk in a minute. Congress and the president choose what is and is not law, and for one reason or another, they choose this particular one to remain. As the national government, they're also the only body capable of creating, altering, enforcing, and destroying laws in the United States. Because of this, to them, the debt ceiling is pretty much a New Year's resolution, only important because they say it is, and only until they get sick of it, which for some reason they haven't gotten sick of it thus far, even though it's just an awful situation. And asterisk, as Joe Firestone discusses in the September 2021 edition of his live stream show, there are questions surrounding the constitutionality of the debt ceiling law, such as whether it conflicts with Section 4 of the 14th Amendment, and even if it's already been repealed. To make that a little clearer, I have wondered whether it hasn't already been appealed simply because Congress appropriated money for this year that was surely going to take the federal government beyond the debt ceiling as soon as the suspension of the debt ceiling ended. Now, the suspension of the debt ceiling was due to happen on July 31st. Everybody knew this, but Congress went ahead anyway and appropriated money for this whole year, which it knew was going to have to be spent after the debt ceiling was reached. So the question is whether by appropriating that money, Congress did not already repeal the debt ceiling. There's an argument that could be made by the president that they have done that, and therefore he can keep on issuing debt instruments. From a political point of view, the debt ceiling is a very convenient way for the rich, going on with the article, via the two corporate parties to deprive the poor, but pretend they really don't want to. Like the how are you going to pay for it question, and inflation, the boogeyman, the debt ceiling is another tool to deceive those in the middle into thinking that depriving the poor is, quote, unfortunate but necessary. This is the shield behind which they hide what they really mean, quote, of course we can provide for the poor, we just don't want to. Why? Because helping the poor in any way makes them somewhat more powerful. This, relatively speaking, makes the powerful somewhat less powerful. You can't be rich by having a lot. You can only be rich by having a lot more than everyone else. So, of course, it's the gap. It's whether the gap is lesser or the gap, is greater. And, of course, the rich prefer that the gap be greater. And that little cartoon by Jeff expresses that extremely well. In the before situation, the gap is greater. If the coin were minted and the appropriations were spent, the gap would be less. So the next section is called Mint the Effing Coin. This reality is especially revealed by an obscure 1996 law that allows the U.S. president via the Treasury and Mint to create a coin stamp with any value he pleases at any time he likes by merely deciding to do it. The only quirk is that it must be made of platinum. Here's the section of the federal law that makes this possible. 31 U.S. Code 51, Section 5112. Section 31 of the U.S. Code. And I guess it's Article 31 of the U.S. Code, Section 51. Now that must be paragraph 5112. Sorry, folks, I don't know how to read that. I should, but I don't. Anyway, denomination, specifications, and design of coins. So, paragraph K says, the Secretary may mint and issue platinum bullion coins and proof platinum coins in accordance with such specifications, designs, varieties, quantities, denominations, and inscriptions as the Secretary, in the Secretary's discretion, may prescribe from time to time. Now, this point will become important later on in this live stream, because notice it's very general, in accordance with such specifications, designs, varieties, quantities, denominations, and inscriptions as the secretary, in the secretary's discretion, may prescribe from time to time. So denominations, that's the face value of the coin. Designs, that's the shape of the coin and where the inscriptions are to go on the coin. The makeup of the coin, in other words, what it is to be made of in terms of the metals that go into the coin. Also varieties, different types of coins, quantities of metals that are to go into a coin, and denominations, the face value, and inscriptions, what the coin says on it. And it's the responsibility of the secretary to specify this for bullion coins and proof platinum coins. Okay? So that language is pretty explicit and pretty specific. The ability to use this law to circumvent a debt ceiling crisis was first discovered by lawyer Carlos Mucha, further developed by political scientist Joe Firestone, the author of the only full-length book on the topic, and more recently given a legal analysis in 2020 by, I think it's actually Willamette as opposed to Wilmette, University law professor Rowan Gray. Basically, the debt ceiling prevents the national debt from exceeding some arbitrary threshold. In the national context, however, the concept of debt has a precise and technical legal meaning that bears no resemblance to what the term debt means to average human beings. Some of the money created by the government is legally considered to be debt, some isn't. When a bill becomes law, all new spending appropriated by law is accompanied by bond sales, which is again an arbitrary political choice, not a financial necessity. I got to clarify two things about that there. Okay. There is, in the accounting world, a concept of liabilities of the government. What is a liability of the government? Okay, it's an obligation they have to make good on. It's an obligation they incur. From an accounting point of view, when the government issues money, okay, to the private sector, that money is a liability of the government. So it's a debt of the government. In what sense is it a debt of the government? In the sense that the government has to take back the money that it has issued in order to pay for things the government is selling, and most importantly, it has to take back its liability, its money, in payment of taxes. It doesn't have a choice about that. It must do that, okay, according to law. Now, there are other liabilities of the government which are designated legally as debt instruments which the government issues and the government sells. Those debt instruments carry an interest rate. When the instruments are paid back, they're paid back with interests. The principal is paid back, and the interest, okay, is paid back. Those contractual obligations of the government are considered to be debt. The debt instruments, okay, are the note of the government. And they represent that the government is in debt to the entities that bought the debt instruments. And when the debt actually matures, if it's a 10-year note or a 3-year note or a 6-month note, when it matures, the government is obligated to pay the principal back to the person that bought or the entity that bought the debt instruments, and also to pay back the interest that has fallen due at that time. When the government issues just plain old money, we don't think of it as a debt of the government. There's no interest that's attached to that particular debt, okay, that people take. However, it is still a liability of the government, which the government has to make good by accepting the money in payment, okay, of taxes, and also in payment of things the government, okay, is selling. Going on with the next sentence, when a bill becomes law, all new spending appropriated by that law is accompanied by bond sales. That's not really true. Okay. In other words, whether new spending appropriated by that law is accompanied by bond sales depends on whether the spending actually occurs at a time when the government needs to further fill the Treasury spending account. Then it will do auctions, okay, of bond sales. The auctions are held by the Federal Reserve, okay, on behalf of the government. That's when the bond sales occur. In other words, those sales, those auctions, okay, are dictated by the need to fill the purse, the public purse. If there was no need to fill the public purse, there would be no need to issue the bond sales, even though new spending was appropriated by law. When a bill becomes law, all new spending appropriated that law, okay, is accompanied by bond sales. When we get to the point of deficit spending, then it's accompanied by bond sales. Jeff points out here, however, that which is again an arbitrary political choice, not a financial necessity. He's entirely right about that. The totality of the bonds in circulation is the definition of the national debt. It's the totality of the principal value of the bonds in circulation, okay, which is the definition of the national debt. Significantly, the interest due on those bonds is not considered part of the national debt, though the payment of that interest is certainly a liability of the government as well. But for the purposes of the debt ceiling law, that is not considered part of the national debt. No coin, however, no matter what it's made of, is accompanied by bond sales, and so does not add to the national debt. Now that is true. Coins are not considered legally to add to the national debt. For that matter, neither is currency that is issued thought to add to the national debt. Nor are Federal Reserves, essentially markups of accounts at the Federal Reserve, nor do they add to the national debt. In other words, when the federal government creates new money or issues new money out to the public, that does not add to the national debt. But then, key sentence, therefore, no coin can cause a violation of the debt ceiling. Importantly, the money from the platinum coin can only be used to pay for spending already appropriated by the Congress. I don't think that's quite true, Jeff. I think the money from the platinum coin, well, I guess that technically is true. Okay, in other words, well, it may be technically true, but it's misleading in the following sense. The money from the platinum coin, the seigniorage from the platinum coin, can be used to pay for spending that has been appropriated by Congress during the period of the fiscal year of the appropriation. But the proceeds from the platinum coin can also be used to pay, to spend, to pay for debt instruments that are falling due during the period of the appropriation. So, if you get seigniorage from the platinum coin, which is $100 trillion, you can pay for the spending that's already appropriated by Congress in 2021, and you can also pay for all the outstanding debt that is going to fall due in 2021. Now, technically speaking, of course, the spending has already occurred, even though the debt was also incurred. So the point is, you can use the proceeds from the platinum coin to pay to redeem debt instruments and to pay for the interest that has fallen due, as well. And so you can say indirectly, well, that's really for the spending that has taken place, but I think that's really stretching it a bit, and that it's more clear to say that the money from the platinum coin can be used to pay for spending already appropriated by Congress, and also to repay debts that fall due during the period of the appropriation. So, creating a several trillion-dollar platinum coin would do no more than prevent the current and perhaps the next debt ceiling crisis. Well, if you were to mint a $100 trillion platinum coin, it would not only prevent the current debt ceiling crisis and the next debt ceiling crisis, but all debt ceiling crises for the foreseeable future. And the reason why is that we have roughly $28.5 trillion of debt instruments currently outstanding. $100 trillion coin takes care of the repayment of all of that, and there would be no necessity to issue any more debt instruments. The conclusion, as Joe Firestone makes clear, the platinum coin has the potential to do much more than just get us through the next debt ceiling crisis. This is a big difference between a $1 or $2 trillion coin and a $100 trillion coin. The former is just a block for a few months, while everyone roasts the president for doing something silly. Since the creation of the platinum coin, and this is a quote from me actually, since the creation of the platinum coin would allow the Treasury to repay all debt as it falls due, the creation of a $100 trillion coin would kill all austerity politics, since you can't bitch, moan, or terrorize about the debt when it's constantly being paid off without any new debt being issued. In other words, the creation of the $100 trillion coin disarms people like Manchin and Sinema when they campaign. We can't afford a $42 trillion Green New Deal or even a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. Politically, the $100 trillion coin would be a revolution. It would change the face of politics for the foreseeable future. And yes, that was a source of a private dialogue that I had with Jeff about this. And Jeff goes on, in the words of Rowan Gray, quote, "We don't have a debt crisis, we have a debt ceiling crisis," unquote. The true solution to the debt ceiling crisis is to not raise the debt ceiling ever higher, but to eliminate the concept altogether. Until that day, the president could unilaterally end the crisis both now and for the foreseeable future by merely choosing to do so. The fact that he won't brings up serious concerns about his true motivations and intentions. Of course, the even larger picture is how both corporate parties lavish the rich and deprive the poor. This, in turn, is another chapter in the centuries-long battle between rich and poor. Debt ceiling is nothing more than another false economic shield behind which to hide immorality and corruption. Clinging to the idea is not ignorance or misguided concern. It's a desperate attempt by the emperor to avoid being seen naked and from having to scramble to find another shield. And then Jeff gives us resources to learn about the reality of the debt ceiling and minting the coin. And he cites a mint the coin online fact created for Congressman Rashida Tlaib's the proposed ABC Act, which would provide monthly relief in checks for all Americans for the duration of the pandemic and paid for with $2 trillion coins. The bill was written with the assistance, of Rowan Gray. I suspect the online fact was written with the assistance of Rowan Gray also. Then there's a 2013 post by Tim Monet called Public Debt, Debt Ceiling, and Monetary Sovereign, Some Accounting Realities, and then some resources of mine. Does the debt ceiling have to be raised? 2014 post, 2014 book, Fixing the Debt Without Breaking America, Austerity, the $1 trillion coin, and Ending Debt Ceiling, Sequester, and Budgetary Crises. That's a mouthful, of course. The book was originally written in 2013. That was the first edition. The 2014 book is the second edition of the book, which was revised considerably to the extent that I added a rather long section, in an appendix, which covered 7 ways of resolving debt ceiling crises. So it's a very interesting appendix from the standpoint of the debt ceiling. Then there was a 2018 post, As the Debt Ceiling Approaches a Fiscal Myth Echoes Across the Landscape of Politics, and another 2018 post, Permanent Cures for Debt Ceiling Crises. And then there is Rowan Gray's paper, a very great paper, Administering Money. It's a very long paper, but very great paper. Administering Money, Coinage, Debt Crises, and the Future of Fiscal Policy. That also is a mouthful. September 2021 interview with Money on the Left called Chekhov's Coin. That was written, by Ron. And April 2020 interview with Money on the Left, hashtag Mint the Coin and COVID Relief with the Modern Money Network. And April 2020 interview with MMT Podcast, number 48, hashtag number 48, Rowan Gray, hashtag Mint the Coin.
I presume you can't hear me, but scroll down and do that Easter egg.
The 48th episode of Activist MMT. I think that's what that 48 stands for. And then
yes, thank you.
The Mint the Coin Easter egg. The Mint the Coin image is from the mintthecoin.org website, which is Congresswoman Tlaib's website, as described in the above resources list. And Jeff gives you a way to save the image of Mint the coin, and he ends by saying,
"No, he's not getting it.
Coin,
no,
indeed."
The file name.
So I was a little long-winded in reading that. I'm now going to go back to StreamYard and see if Jeff has been able to get in or solve the problem yet. I'm going to go to this view, see if we can hear him. I have a suggestion, Jeff.
I'm pretty sure that... now do you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
What? Okay. I'm pretty sure... Well, whatever. I wasn't speaking while you were reading, but... Hello again!
Hello again. Okay, you're back.
I have to get off in 15 minutes, but we'll do what we can. The name of that file, the name of that image file, if you you can right click on an image on the web. So if you go to the Rashida Tlaib website, Mint the Coin fact, whatever it is, .org, you right click on that image. The name of the image file is mtfc.jpg. mtfc.jpg. Mint the effing coin.
Mint the effing coin, yeah.
That's the name of the file on the congressional website.
Yes.
I think that's pretty funny.
I think that's pretty funny too.
So I want to ask you about all those little mistakes. Uh, but we'll talk about that later. Do you think? Let me ask your opinion. Do you think that it is in any sense a conspiracy that I am unreasonably concluding that the intent, not of any individual, but as a collective, the intent is to deprive and to deceive? Is that an unfair assessment in your opinion?
Okay.
Obviously, there's not a single bad guy out there.
Yeah, there's
It's
not
just the collective.
Yeah, right. In other words, something has evolved inside a collective over time. In other words, a very convenient way, something that serves the function of containing spending for the poor, containing spending for the have-nots. When the elites, I think they probably stumbled upon that, or they realized that that was one of the effects of having debt ceiling crises. But when that happened, they were all too willing to embrace it. I think they first really began to understand that. But during the Obama period, when the Republicans took over in 2011, and they began to threaten that they aren't going to raise the debt ceiling.
But I mean,
okay, then I think that Obama realized that he could use their threats and that he could use a manufactured conflict with them in order to negotiate settlements that would free him from pressure to spend more on people and to do things which his donors were more okay with.
Right. I don't disagree with that. I just think that was kind of, they just stumbled upon a new tool to do that.
They stumbled upon a new tool.
It's not a unique.
And since then, they've clung to the tool because they know what it does.
And they can really leverage that ignorance of the populace that they buy it.
And that's what debt terrorism is about.
Right. So okay. So I mean, I was really, really pushed that I was like pushing conspiracy theories, and it's just a holdover from the gold standard, not just the debt ceiling, but other stuff. And it just really feels reasonable. There's no specific bad guy, but there, from a collective point of view, and this is the end result. And if we don't treat it that way, then whatever. So I feel confident about that.
I think there are some specific people who are bad guys in this.
Yeah, that's also true.
There's a bad guy in it.
Yeah,
Paul Ryan is certainly a bad guy in it.
Yeah, of course.
The Peterson Foundation has been full of bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, enough of that.
As a matter of fact, I wrote 2 volumes about the bad guys.
Okay.
In other words, 2 of my books, the Real Fiscal Responsibility books, are about the network of bad guys who are using austerity politics.
There you go. I realized, I haven't heard anybody say this. I mean, I'm sure that you're not going to be surprised, but I haven't heard anybody say this. The minting the coin means that the president, an MMT president, or a president who cared and who wanted to, could single-handedly end austerity politics forever by minting the coin, by appointing a Treasury Secretary that could mint the coin. The president unilaterally could mint the coin, get it done, make it happen, and austerity politics.
Okay, according to the law, the president would have to get the Treasury Secretary to order the mint, to create coin.
Sure.
But if Biden were to issue an executive order to Janet Yellen, I'm sure she'd comply with the executive order.
Right, and a real caring president would appoint a Treasury Secretary that would do that, and he's not going to not be able to find someone. So I think it's fair to say that he could unilaterally do this.
Yes, I think it's fair to say that also, and for another reason as well. The president has a constitutional obligation equal to the Congress's constitutional obligation to do everything he or she can to avoid a default, to retain the full faith and credit, of the United States. So if the president has a tool that he or she can use to do that with, sooner or later, before a default comes, the president is obligated to use that tool if
Right.
Congress won't. He can't simply throw up his hands and say it's Congress's fault.
Right, but they're only teasing about a default. This is what this is all about. It's all teasing about a default. It's not really threatening default because they can just raise the limit. They're in control.
Yeah, but the point is, if they run into some political barrier of some kind, something they did not anticipate, and they cannot raise the debt ceiling or suspend the debt ceiling or get rid of the debt ceiling, then the president would definitely have the obligation to mint the platinum coin.
Sure.
Okay, and maybe one can't say the specific time when that obligation actually kicks in. But now we have the stock market now losing thousands of points a day because people are getting panicked about the debt.
Right.
So when does the obligation of the president to mint the coin kick in? Now, it's not the obligation of the president to mint the $100 trillion coin. If he was smart and he really wanted to do something in the coming age, well, the age that's here now, of having to do something about the climate emergency, the president would then surely mint the $100 trillion coin. But to get by this present debt ceiling crisis, probably the president could do it with a $1 trillion coin or a $2 trillion coin or something like that, would be enough. But that would leave us in the grip of austerity politics. It wouldn't have ended austerity politics.
I have to get off in pretty soon. So I'd like to say a few things. And actually, with all this, I'm really glad that you read the article, but we haven't had a chance really to talk. So maybe there's some, I wanted to maybe spend 10, 15 minutes on that, the FEE article that I mentioned to you in chat, if you know.
Right.
So we don't have time to do that now, but maybe perhaps if we could maybe do a redo and, hopefully the audio would work the whole time, then I have some questions, and I think that would be an interesting thing to do, to go through the FEE article on that tweet thread. But before I get off, I wanted to say, I had an interview on Saturday about the debt ceiling, and I had already agreed to this, and it was with Podcast by George, who I met through Ron Placone. And actually, I'm going on Ron Placone's for MMT Mondays. I'm going to talk about this again with him on Monday, so I'm going to try and fix up these small errors that you brought up. I always knew about the debt ceiling, and I could kind of talk about it. No big deal. I could kind of logically talk about it. And mint the coin, not so much, but But then I did research for the Saturday interview, and I started around Wednesday, and I started reading Rowan's paper. I only read the first 10 pages. And I just shocked at how important it is. I had no idea. And that the debt ceiling and mint the coin are inseparable. And I was completely blown away. And I wrote the post only on reading the first 10, 12, whatever pages of Rowan's 70 plus page paper. And I have your book, but I had to cram, and I didn't have any time to even consider that. But so I was completely blown away at how important this is. And then I passed it by you to get feedback. And so I blame all the mistakes on you. No, but you gave me that quote that we spoke about in private, which brought it to a whole new level, that it's much more than just ending the debt ceiling crisis, much more than that.
Or it could be, depending on the size of the coin.
The size of the coin, if they go big, would be end austerity politics forever, as opposed to ending the debt ceiling crisis. That's quite a big deal, just the amounts that the coin is for. But it's I don't have my head quite around this yet, but this has turned into a big milestone in my understanding in general, because it exposes the true nature of federal finance in a way that nothing else has so far. I mean, you are the person that I've spoken with that I had some really serious roadblocks that you got me through. And one of those roadblocks, which took me a long time to get over, was that money is essentially created alongside debt. And yes, it's not all exactly mirror image one-to-one, because the Treasury might have some on the books. But to top it off, whether it was in the recent past or in the current moment, I think it is fair to generally say, you said it was misleading, and I'm going to try and make it better, but it is fair to say that government spending is always accompanied by debt. Yes, some of it was in the recent past, but in generally speaking, roughly speaking, I think that's accurate to say that government spending, when a law is passed, is roughly mirrored by debt. Some of it was already on the books and whatever. But the reason I'm saying is that I really, really struggled that the creation of debt was a choice. They mirrored it from the beginning of time because that's what they wanted to do, or they chose never to stop it. And that was really a huge roadblock that I had, that you got me over. But I didn't register it until hours after we turned off the cameras. That it was just sinking in. I remember I wrote you late one night. I was writing about it, and it finally clicked hours after the live stream was over. But it exposes the mint the coin really brings home the nature of what debt is, because I don't even know how to quite explain it, but it just really makes things a lot clearer. I think it's kind of, I had the debt in my head. People have the debt in their head, and it's a much smoother transition to do the coin to kind of replace it and whatever. It's a much smoother transition from misunderstanding to reality, as opposed to, I guess I was, jumping to the end of whatever. It just,
Right.
it has become a really big milestone. Anyway.
Here's something with respect to the MMTers themselves. And when I say the MMTers now, I'm referring to the founders and their grad students whose education they had a great deal of control over. They represent a collective, a thought collective. Okay. We are a bit outside of that collective. We very much appreciate it. We teach it, at various levels. In other words, we teach the things that they have actually developed. But the people who are central to the thought collective, to my mind, have been following a deliberate strategy of education of the public, emphasizing basic principles, and wanting to frame everything in a particular way that they think is best for getting the ideas actually through to the public. Now, the people central to the collective, basically Bill and Warren and Randy and Stephanie and, the people inside, who I consider friends as well. I think they decided sometime back in 2013 or 2014 or maybe 2012 that too much talking about the platinum coin was no good for their educational efforts, because it would detract in some way from the basics, of MMT, or maybe would result in it being too easy to attack them in the context of the discipline, economics. And so, knowing fully about the coin and the possibilities of the coin, And knowing about the 100T coin, the first person to suggest the 100T coin was actually Stephanie Kelton. It wasn't me. I suggested a 60T coin. Stephanie saw that it was a better meme to just say 100T coin. And in some Twitter exchange with Joe Wiesenthal, she came up with a 100T coin. Okay? So even though she came up with it and everybody was aware of that, and I think that happened in 2012 or 2013, okay, or something like that, they decided to de-emphasize discussions of the coin. And for years after that, I was the only one writing about the coin who was in any way closely connected to the MMT world. Now, okay, I should say Rowan he would always mention the coin. He was very fond of the idea from the start. In fact, he and Raoul, and I don't know if Nathan was involved, okay, in this point, okay, but at one time, back in 2012, they came up with a joke, okay, and the joke was to try to create a float of the platinum coin and parade with it down Constitution Avenue in front of the Federal Reserve to try to emphasize that the Federal Reserve should accept, okay, a platinum coin.
Okay.
They came up with that idea. They never implemented it, and soon such stunts were forgotten for some time. Okay, but Rowan has always been in favor of, I think, a greater emphasis on the coin. And of course, he did a terrific thing in going to Rashida and persuading her to try to use it for her bill. I think that was a wonderful thing that he really did. But for the most part, most of the MMTers have studiously ignored the coin since those early days in 2011, 2012, and 2013.
Well, whatever the case, I think it's helped me triangulate, probably learning their way and learning through the coin that it just whatever happened, the puzzle.
Yes, but my point is,
Yeah.
It might have accelerated the learning of a lot of people if the coin continued to be discussed in 2013 and continued to be featured afterwards. So maybe that was a strategic error by the people, who are running the collective.
Maybe. Joe, I need to leave. If you consider, maybe doing a redo, there is, I think we could easily fill an hour with what I was, hoping to talk about.
Right. But why don't we do that? Let's say we could do it actually sometime soon during the day.
Well, I work at a high school, full time at a high school, so I could do it earlier. I could do it starting at around 4:00, but whatever.
Okay, if you can do it starting 4:00 or something like that, it still might not be convenient for Thursday. Maybe Friday we could do it.
Whatever you think. I'm good at this time. I just need to really get off. I get up at 4:45 in the morning. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye for now, and we'll do something else, okay, a little later in the week about this.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Bye, everybody. It was good. Well, I mean, I enjoyed watching I really enjoyed your color commentary as you were reading my thing. I don't know why the sound, we seem to have a little knack of messing up sounds, but
you know what I think that sound was? For some reason, when I shared the blog post, I think that cut off your sound, because when I stopped sharing it, you came in again. So there must have been some sound conflict that came about through something on the page of the blog post. I don't know what it could have been, but
don't know. It's
I
plain text as far as I know.
Theorize that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joe. We will talk again. 8 o'clock is fine, or we can do during the day, or Lana suggested during the weekend, whatever works. It's all good. So
Okay.
We'll talk. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. There we go. Okay, folks, of course, there's no reason for us to stop. It's early, and I'm going to go over your comments and take your questions and any other things that you want to do here. I want to say hello to Dolores, of course, for always doing the great work of starting us off, both on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, Aaron Taylor is here. Hi, really nice to see you, Aaron. It's always nice to see you. And Jonathan Wilson says, hi, Jeff and Joe. Hi, Jonathan. And Amber says, I'm still at work, but we'll tune in later. Shared, but love to all. Okay, says hi. Lana says hi there. Jeff says, hey, nice surprise all around. Oops, what am I doing here? And Lana reminded everybody to share, like, and subscribe. And that was very good. And Henry Gostoff said, I think it should be a square the size of a postage stamp. And Dolores says, I can hear. Jonathan Wilson says, we can hear both of you. Yeah, I guess, but we couldn't hear each other. So we sort of had to hear each other if we were going to have a conversation. So Henry Gostoff says, that way no one can mistakenly use it to win a prize at Chuck E. Cheese's. Lana says, I can hear both of you. And Jeff says, my audio is fine. I hear Joe fine, and my audio is fine according to StreamYard. Yeah, and mine was fine according to StreamYard also. And Lana says, Jeff can hear Joe, but Joe can't hear Jeff. That was weird. I can't understand that at all. And Joe, can you reset your headphones? I don't have any headphones, Jonathan. I am just going through the system sound. I mean, I do it very simply. I go through the system sound. It seems to work well in StreamYard, and I don't get any conflicts. But by the way, that was the first sound conflict of any kind that I've had now for a very long time. I guess the last one must have been 4 or 5 months ago. I'm just not running into sound checks, to sound problems. But generally speaking, Bennett Hoffman says, I don't hear Jeff clearly either. And Dolores says, I can hear both. Lana says, I can still hear both of you. Dora says, I hear both beautifully. Hey, you all, starting early, almost missed it. Sup, Jeff. And Jeff says, hi, go start. Whoever you are, that's Steve Gonzo. And Aaron Taylor says, yes, we hear you. Activist says, this is what I want to hear. Joe's color commentary. And Lana says, go start equals Steve. Aaron Taylor says, I can hear both of you. And Jeff says, thanks, Aaron. And Go Start says, activist MMT, what Lana Dell hates the clock said. And Lisa says, hey, folks. And Jeff says, he said something with an icon. And Go Start says, share the dog. Lana says, Jeff, this article is well said. Yeah, that was well done, wasn't it? And Lisa says, the coin to sink the Titanic. Lana says, haha, Lisa. And Jeff says, thanks, Lana. Joe helped sharpen it. Kay says, great article from Jeff. And Kay says, Jeff, you did real good, buddy. And Jeff says, I just fixed the university name and another typo I noticed as he was reading it. Reload. And Lana says, they actually do mint this kind. The media cameras better follow it from birth to deposit. Otherwise, no one will believe it, laugh out loud. Even then, they won't believe it. They'll think it was fixed by Photoshop or something. And Jeff says, all money is an accounting debt. Only some government money is a debt in the sense of bond sales. No government money is debt in the sense of personal debt. That's right. And activist MMT says, stupid YouTube. And that's Jeff, of course. And Jeff says, copy the link, won't let you click on it. Grumble, grumble. Activist MMT says, laugh out loud. Lana says, I've tried to post links on YouTube. It never works. You have to type it all out separate, such as onepayerstates.org. And Jeff says the company by that amount of bond sales, whether in the past or now, it's topped off now, depending on how much was sold in the past. I'm not sure what Jeff actually meant by that, but okay, if you think about it, much of the spending the government does is offset by taxes. So bonds, generally speaking, okay, are only issued to finance a deficit spending. Now, of course, we know from Stephanie's work that they don't really finance a deficit spending. The people think they do because it's an overhang from the old gold days when they did. But now they do not finance deficit spending. It's the Fed marking up the Treasury's account that actually finances it. But the point is, the government is issuing the Treasury debt when it runs short of money, and it is running short of money when the tax revenues don't keep up with the spending. So that is what is going on. And Jeff says it is especially because my YouTube username is part of the URL. Steve says 1 cubic inch of platinum, 351.5 grams, 351 grams, 0.773854.027 pounds. Does a cubic inch of platinum weigh 1 ounce? Because we're talking a 1 ounce platinum coin here. A 1 ounce platinum coin. Now, 454 grams is a pound. Okay, so, divide that by 16, 24.7 grams of platinum, even if the coin were pure platinum. 24.7 grams of platinum would go into a platinum coin if it were wholly platinum. But it doesn't have to be wholly platinum. I mean, a 1 ounce platinum coin can have the mix of metals specified by the Treasury Secretary. And Aaron says, hate Congress people. And Steve Gonzo says, AOC equals audacity of crumbs. I heard that before, Steve. And Jeff says, the file name is mtfc.jpg. And he says, mint the effing coin. And Kay says, oh, bummer, sucks. And Steve Gonzo says, I like thin mints, hashtag chocoholic. And Steve says, $1 trillion platinum coin could be minted within hours of the Secretary's decision to do so, said Phil Deal, former director. Oh, he's saying that now. Phil Deal is saying former director of the United States Mint is saying to Axios now. Yeah, I think he said that back in 2011 and 2012 as well. Certainly he said that back in 2012. Okay, so somebody better send Kelton to teach Biden. It wouldn't surprise me at all if she hasn't already given a talk for Joe Biden, because Stephanie has very good contacts with Jared Bernstein, who was on the Council, of Economic Advisors, and used to be Biden's chief economic advisor. He used to be when Biden was vice president. So Jared has Biden's trust, and he could easily get Stephanie in to see Biden, I think. Aaron says, that's interesting. And Lana says, on the weekend, during the day, I don't know if we could do it on the weekend during the day. Maybe we could do it Saturday during the day. Maybe that would be good. And Dolores says, thank you, Jeff. Sandy says, bye, Jeff. Hi, Sandy. Didn't see you here. And Hi, Jeff. Kay says, thank you, Jeff. And Sandy says, I can hear, but the screen is frozen. Sandy says, hello. Sandy says, should I share or wait till tomorrow? No, Sandy, share this. It was a separate, it's a self-contained video. In other words, we're not going to redo the video. We're just going to do a new one. In other words, there'll be an additional video sometime later this week so we can discuss the things that Jeff did not have time to discuss today. What about Mike Norman's video about the debt ceiling workaround? I'll tell you the truth, Lana. I really didn't understand what the hell he was saying there. I mean, I didn't see it as a workaround at all. I don't know what he was coming up with. I mean, I thought the video was illuminating in many aspects, okay, and a good video, but I'm telling you, I listened to it 3 times. I didn't understand what he was suggesting. Did you? Sandy says, is the screen frozen on YouTube? I don't know. There's no indication that the screen is frozen. And Lisa says, Jeff, it's so good. Oh, Ghostart says, Washington, the U.S. Postal Service quietly began offering paycheck cashing services at several East Coast post offices, potentially transforming how low-wage, underserved Americans access money. A return to postal banking, huh? That would be wonderful. Lisa says, what I refer to as the big ruse. So no, it's not an unreasonable assertion. It's what is going on. Okay, my comments have ended here at 9:11. I have much more that I can go through. Okay, one thing today that occurred with respect to the platinum coin. Lisa says, Joe, can Jeff come back tomorrow? I'm not sure I'm going to be available at that time. Okay, I have an interview tomorrow night with someone we both know, Lisa. And I have to go out for some time during the afternoon tomorrow, so I don't know if I'm going to have the time for it tomorrow. If I'm around at 4 o'clock, I can check with Jeff at 4 o'clock, okay, and we can come back then. But I think it's more likely there'll be opportunities on Thursday, on Friday, and on Saturday, as opposed to tomorrow. And Lana said, I listened to Mike Norman twice. I was hoping you can break it down, laugh out loud. You need to ask him to explain. Lana says, yeah, postal check cashing. So Jeff clued me into something that was happening today on Twitter, and also in something that was written by one William Luther. Okay, and there's a thread on the web now about that, and I'm going to go through the thread. I'm going to share it with you. Okay, William Luther put up a thread which is based in an article that he wrote for Fing magazine, and I put a link into the description for that. So let me now share Okay, now let me share my screen again. I don't think that's going to do any cutoffs. Let me go back to StreamYard and share the screen again. And I got it. Okay, so here is William J. Luther with a thread. And he's the author of an article which appeared in Fing magazine, which is also linked. He says, I can't believe people are still talking about minting a 1 trillion T platinum coin. It's an incredibly dumb idea. Even if the U.S. Treasury would have mint the coin, Spoiler, it won't. Doing so would not help get around the debt ceiling. And he's got 12 tweets in this tweet storm. Second tweet, situation, the Treasury is bumping up against the debt ceiling. Congress does not want to raise taxes or cut spending, but its failure to raise or remove the debt limit precludes borrowing to cover the deficit. Yellen says the Treasury will run out of money soon. What can we do? Third tweet in. Some say the Treasury can mint a 1T coin, deposit it at the Fed, and then draw down its Fed account to make expenditures. The Fed could then sell an equivalent amount of its treasuries, as Paul Krugman explains, to offset the monetary effects of the coin. So Krugman came up with this moronic idea of selling treasuries to offset the monetary effects of the coin back in 2011 when he first heard of the coin. He somehow thought that you had to issue an equivalent amount of treasuries. And he is still held to this view now for 10 years, with all kinds of people from the MMT world and non-MMT world saying he's crazy, but he won't really argue against it and debate against it, but just keeps insisting that the $1 trillion coin and the proceeds from it would have to be accompanied by the issuing of an equivalent amount of debt. And he says here in a tweet from March 24th, 2020, by minting a coin with a nominal value of $1 trillion and depositing it at the Fed, Treasury could acquire a Fed account that it could draw on to pay expenses. But the Fed wouldn't actually print more money than it would have otherwise. He's right about that. It won't involve any more printing of money. But he's not right about one's needing to issue any Treasury debt. And William J. Luther says, minting the coin looks a lot like replacing 1T in treasuries at the Fed with a coin and then issuing 1T in new treasuries to the public. But since the total amount of treasuries outstanding is unchanged, the debt ceiling is not breached. Pretty clever, huh? No, it's stupid because it still allows for debt terrorism. There's just one problem. The scheme, as articulated by proponents, is unlawful. The Treasury is authorized to mint platinum coins, to mint platinum bullion and proof platinum coins. It is, quote, not, it is asterisk, not, asterisk again, authorized to mint a platinum, I think those are supposed to be quotes, token, quote, coin. And that, it turns out, is an important distinction. Now, I don't know what a token coin is. I've never heard that expression before. It seems like some expression that was just generated by William J. Luther out of his head or wherever he took it from. But the point being, well, when you see the language, you'll see what the point is. But I want to say here, I'm not aware of any legal definition of a token coin that relates to section 5112, paragraph K of the coin law that gave the authority to the Secretary of the Treasury to mint those platinum coins. But he goes on to say, for the coin scheme to work as intended, the Treasury would need to produce a tiny amount of platinum worth, say, 1 cent, and mint a coin with a face value of 1T. Ignoring other minting costs, this would enable $999.99 in new expenses. Let's round up to 1T. It wouldn't need to procure a tiny amount of platinum, say. It could do a whole ounce of platinum. The specification allows a 1 ounce platinum coin. It could do a whole ounce of platinum, or it could do a half an ounce of platinum, or 3/4 ounce of platinum. Okay, it would not have to have it cost only 1 cent. I mean, it wouldn't have to get the whole 1T. Or in the case of what I prefer, it wouldn't have to get the whole 100T. I mean, if you look at a 100T coin, a $3,500 cost for the coin is infinitesimal. It doesn't matter. It's in the noise. It says, note that the more the Treasury pays to mint the $1 coin, the less room it has to make new expenditures. If it were to procure 1T in platinum to mint a 1T coin, for example, it would not be able to make any new expenditures at all. Yeah, that's true. But why would it do that? It doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have to do that. It can do a 1-ounce platinum coin and put a face value of 1T on it. That's the whole point of what it is authorized to do in Section 112, Paragraph K. In other words, the scheme requires the Treasury mint a platinum token coin. That is a platinum coin with a face value that exceeds the value of its metallic content. Unfortunately, the Treasury is not authorized to mint a platinum token coin. Let's take a look at the law. Here it is. 42 of the U.S. Code, Section 5112, Paragraph K, grants the Secretary of the Treasury permission to mint and issue platinum bullion and proof coins in any denomination. A bullion coin is worth its weight in precious metals. Proof coins result when the metal is highly polished and struck more than once. That doesn't mean it's restricted to bullion coins. It can issue proof coins in any design, not just in any denomination. We'll see that in just a moment. To produce a 1T platinum bullion coin, the Treasury would first have to procure 1T worth of platinum, minting 1T, not provide a way around the debt ceiling. Producing a 1T platinum coin could be even less effective. As with the bullion coin, the Treasury would first have to procure 1T worth of platinum. It would then incur even more costs. So, William J. Luther's argument is based on the idea. It is based on the idea that you would have to issue a platinum bullion coin, and the bullion coin would have to have 1T worth of platinum metal in it, because that's what a bullion coin is. Okay, so that's the argument. The conclusion is, minting a 1T platinum coin will not help. We must cut spending, increase taxes, or raise the debt ceiling. We don't need a clever workaround, and we need to face the problem head on. Okay, here's the full language of that. The full language. Okay, the full language. The full language is, Secretary may mint and issue platinum bullion coins and proof platinum coins in accordance with such specifications, designs, varieties, quantities, denominations, and inscriptions as the Secretary, in the Secretary's discretion, may prescribe from time to time. Now, to me, this language is pretty plain. The specifications of a proof platinum coin could be that it has to have a certain amount of platinum in it. Not the same amount of platinum as a platinum bullion coin, a proof platinum coin. What Luther is assuming is that it can only be proof platinum bullion coins that the Secretary is allowed to mint. But that is not what the law says. It says the Secretary is free to do this in accordance with such specifications, designs, varieties, quantities, denominations, and inscriptions as the Secretary in the Secretary's discretion may prescribe from time to time. So, Seems to me he's just misinterpreted what the language says. Notice, though, it may not be just a misinterpretation. The argument is shaded because he doesn't give you the actual language of the coin. What I've given you here is a quote from the U.S. Code. He did not give you that quote. Why not? It could be done in a single tweet. I did it in a single tweet. He collapses his contention to a sentence and then adds another sentence, which basically is important in making his argument. It isn't a part of the U.S. Code. And I say in my next tweet, after I give the reference to the code, a link to the code so you can look at it to see that I have in fact quoted the exact language, the exact wording doesn't limit the design to exclude token coins or require that the value of the metal must equal the face value. If the secretary wants to mint a 1 ounce proof platinum coin with face value 100 T, she can do so. The cost of that coin, about 3,500 or so. The face value, 100 T. The seniorage profit in the coin, nearly 100 T. The seniorage can be swept from the Mint's Public Enterprise Fund account to the Treasury General account at the Treasury's discretion. C. And I have a reference to my book on fixing the debt without breaking America. And then I say, by the way, Krugman doesn't know what he's talking about. The Treasury would not need to issue debt to absorb the monetary effects of the coin because the minting of the coin and the crediting of the PEF with approximately 100 T in reserves doesn't mean it would be spent into the economy. I said the opposite, of what I meant there. Let me get the follow-on tweet of that. I should be able to get my follow-on tweet. In that follow-on tweet, I say, spending is determined by congressional appropriations. These would not increase due to the crediting of the coin. Treasury spending is limited to what Congress appropriates. No runaway inflation would result. Krugman would know that if he read the hashtag MMT literature on the coin. So that was the end of my reply to that argument. The argument that you would need to have as much metal in the coin as the face value of the coin obviously takes away the secretary's discretion to specify the denomination of the coin. In other words, what Luther is saying is that the Treasury Secretary has an obligation to specify the denomination in accordance with the bullion coin specifications. But that is not in this language. That is not in this language. In this language, the Secretary is free to do the specifications, do the designs, do the varieties, do the quantity, do the denominations, and the inscriptions that the Secretary wants. In the Secretary's discretion, may prescribe from time to time. So, Luther has read something into the law that is not there. And his citing of Krugman also shows he doesn't know the literature on this, because Krugman is nowhere near a leading authority on the platinum coin. That is for damn sure. So that was another thing that I wanted to cover in this particular session. So let us see if you have some more things to say here. Okay, I'll pick this up at 9:17. Joe, can Jeff come back tomorrow? I answered that already. Lana said I listened to Mike Norman twice. Was hoping I could break it down. I'll listen to it again and see if I can break it down, if I can get it this time. Lana says, yay, postal check cashing. And Shane says, hey, Lisa. Hey, Lana. Hey, Ghost Start. Hey, Dolores. And Shane is late. And Lisa says, the public who were listening for years need to get out of the elementary classroom altogether. Shane says, interesting conversation tonight. And Lana says, I can picture Rohan snorting over this article. Why would Rohan snort over the article? I don't think he would snort over the article. The article was very complimentary to him. And Shane says, Lisa sent you a Twitter message. Sandy Diggs said shared, and Dolores says KRTD media announcement tomorrow at 4 p.m. ET. Shane Coughlin will be talking to Chief Policy Advisor Joseph Firestone about the 3.5T and 1.2T infrastructure bills. Will the progressives hold the line? Will they waver? Oh, by the way, waver in this context is spelled W-A-V-E-R. Not W-A-I-V-E-R. W-A-I-V-E-R is what they want to get the state-based single-payer on the books. And Dolores says, what's in the bills, who will cave, and much more. Be sure to tune in. Thank you for featuring that, Dolores. Lana says, hi, Shane. And Shane says, hey, Lana, you settled in your new house yet? Lisa says, okay, Shane, busy day. I'll look at it. And Steve Gonzo says, President Biden says there is a real possibility that Democrats invoke the nuclear option and change the filibuster to raise the debt limit. Well, that would be wonderful if they did that. That would be wonderful if they were to do that. I think that rivals in importance the minting of the platinum coin. If Biden could get them to do that, that would be a great thing, because then they could pass laws with 50 votes. Of course, that would put even more pressure on Manchin and Sinema to cave to what the rest of the caucus wants. Lana Dell says, Shane, you must be joking. Kay says, remind me then, Dolores Pierce. And Lisa says, tomorrow. Hey, yes, tomorrow. Yes, Lisa is coming on the show tomorrow. We're going to talk about the strategy of fighting on all fronts and try to break this down some more. I'm having a little series. I talked to Laura last week about this, and I'm talking to Lisa this week. And maybe next week or the week after, I'm going to be talking to Andre Stackhouse about this, if I can get a hold of him again. And Steve Gonzo says, hey, KRTD Media, hashtag the Shane Train. The Shane Train, yes, indeed. Kay says, see why I missed you all yesterday? Love you all. Thank you, Kay. Did you miss us yesterday? Oh, yeah, yesterday was Monday. We weren't on. I forgot. And Shane says, gotcha. No rush at Lisa Theobald. And Shane says, laugh out loud. Lana JK. And Lana says, the article you just read, that includes Krugman, not Jeff's article. Yeah, Jeff, what Jeff did is he turned me on to Luther's article and Luther's Twitter storm, which was based on his article. The tweet storm doesn't contain any major points which are not in the article. So, okay, I don't think the article gives that much more detail. I did skip an argument in that article. But I still gave the link to the article in Fing magazine that Luther had, so you can see it. And KRTD Media says, we just got a new host once a month for an additional news show who may at some point do a podcast for us. Very excited. Their name is Aiden Hill, working on getting more hosts. Okay, announced it moments ago, said Shane. Joe, can't wait to have you on tomorrow to talk about the bills. Me neither, Shane. I'm excited to talk about the bills, for sure. Okay. Any other comments? Too bad. I don't think there's going to be a campaign to try to bludgeon Biden to do the platinum coin in some way. But if he's not going to do a big value platinum coin like 100T, then if you compare the two, as if he'd only be willing to do a $1 trillion platinum coin, it's more important that they get rid of the filibuster. That's more important. Of course, there's all kind of hedging with the filibuster too, like there might just be a carve out of the filibuster for debt ceiling crises. They could do that. And also Dolores says, thank you for a great discussion and show. Thank you very much. KRTD Media says, seems like you finished the comments early today. Yeah, Shane, what happened today is we started at 8 o'clock. This was in my tweets about this. We were going to start at 8 o'clock. And since we started at 8 o'clock, we've already been on for an hour and 41 minutes. Okay. So that was why I finished the comments early. I also took some comments in between taking up the tweet storm. We probably would have had a lot more discussion today, and probably would have taken longer for me to get to the comments, except there was a technical problem. I don't understand why. At one point, in the live stream, it was possible for people to hear me and to hear Jeff, but it wasn't possible. It was possible also for Jeff to hear me, but it wasn't possible for me to hear Jeff. So we couldn't have a conversation. So I took over the reading and commentary on his own article. So that's what happened. Shane says, I forgot and tuned in at 9 o'clock. I'll have to go back and watch. Thank you, Shane. And Dolores says, Mercury is in retrograde, September 27th to October 18th. And for the uninformed, such as I, Dolores, what does that signify? Please tell me what it signifies that Mercury is in retrograde. Sandy says, oh boy. Oh boy is right. Dolores says, technology and communication problems. Oh, thank you, Dolores. So you think this was caused by Mercury being in retrograde? Maybe. Maybe so. Maybe so indeed. Any other comments or questions? If not, then I am going to say have a very nice evening. Thoughts on Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball's last interview? I don't think I saw that. Who was their last interview with? Sandy says it probably does. Who was their last interview with, Shane? I did see Crystal Ball and Sagar today do something on the platinum coin, and in their piece they did point out but Biden's responsibility to stop fooling around and use the platinum coin, which I thought was good. Kay said, thank you all for a great discussion again. But I love you all, and we love you, Kay. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'm going to say goodnight, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow with Lisa. And Lana says, Mercury is the planet for communications. Also Gemini, interruptions in communication. Yeah, Mercury used to carry communications among the gods, right? And that's why he had super speed, because he had to get from one god to another really fast. Sandy says, love you 2K. Yes, we do love you 2K. Anyway, good night, folks.